And we are now live, so happy Wednesday, everybody. Where I am, the sun is shining in sunny southwest London. Today we've got the awesome Mr. James Brighton on the call, or on the interview. He's kind of taken 20 minutes out of his day to talk about his experience working with us here in the 1% Blueprint. By my accounts, James absolutely smashed it, but I want you to hear from him and he can tell you about it himself. Before we jump off and into that, James, can you just introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do?
Yeah, hi. Name's James Brighton. I'm in the mid-40s of my life. I work for a professional services firm, which I have done for quite a while. I'm based in the south coast of England.
And family as well, right? You know, wife, kids.
Sorry, I forgot about that. Good start. Lovely wife, Lynette, 2 kids, 2 dogs. All the trappings.
Cool. And so, by all accounts, busy man, lots going on, right? And so, let's sort of dig into it. So you finishing the program a couple of weeks ago now, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So let's rewind right back before you started. I think you'd seen an old colleague of yours post about having worked with me, and you'd seen her followed a few other bits of my stuff on social media. You decided to reach out and have a chat. What was going on back then? What was your motivation for having a chat with a coach, someone like me?
Yeah, sure. So I had a pretty tough winter health-wise. I picked up a pretty bad chest infection, and I really sort of health deteriorated. Someone who's always done a lot of stuff with fitness and enjoyed that side of life, but motivation and I guess my general performance was just at a really low ebb. I'd also had recognised that I was just everything was getting onto me. Everything was just too tough. I was getting overwhelmed by lots of situations. For me, how that comes, I get frustrated and can lose my temper. And it's just I wasn't the person I wanted to be anymore. I guess I generally didn't feel like I could be the person I thought I was, and I could operate well. And I just wanted to stop being that individual. So I had a colleague, Steve Farrell, a good friend of mine from where I work, had reached out to and worked with you in the past. I'd seen how he had progressed, and I'd also seen a few things online, so I reached out to you.
And just to dig into that just a little bit, what do you think were some of the influencing factors that were sort of leading to that kind of like slight overwhelm, frustration, not feeling your best? What was sort of like pushing those buttons, so to speak?
I think the first thing I'd say in that phase, I wasn't doing my regular habitual exercising, which definitely was a big thing for that period of time, because I was health had deteriorated a little bit over that period of time. I certainly was using the excuse of it. I couldn't do anything. Right? I couldn't do my normal run, therefore I can't do anything. So that was definitely one thing. I think the second thing as well, I just lost any concept of free time, and it wasn't because I didn't have enough time in the day. We've all got 24 hours, I'm pretty sure, and people find time. I wasn't allowing myself to have the time. So what I mean by that was, if I had a couple of quiet hours, I'd sit there scrolling on an iPad, scrolling on a phone, bumbling around, checking emails. I didn't probably need to check emails for work, and I was just wasting the time in the day. And therefore, by not giving myself the time, I wasn't able to or find any sort of relaxation, I guess, in its fullest way. So I think lots of those frustrations come back to the fact I was so centered in other things that wasn't things that I wanted to do, or find the time. It was me. I didn't have a time. Almost the way I describe it, it almost felt like I was drowning and I couldn't breathe. Right, that's how it felt.
Yeah. Okay. And not to belittle your situation, James, but I think that's a common narrative for a lot of the gents that I speak to, at least initially. And it's this, I think, a subconscious or even conscious knowledge that things aren't quite right and I'm not doing what I need to do. But the demands of work, life, family, all those pieces sort of feel like they're coming at you. And it's like a sort of, you're saying drowning. It's being disempowered and not being able to take ownership for them. And then some of the habits that you've got are positive and negative, and then compounding that. And so it feels like you need and want to do something, but you can't see the wood for the trees, and some of the factors that influence it almost compound it at the same time, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think. I mean, the thing I would say that the biggest thing of all of those things I mentioned in the frustration was like, generally relationships across the board were just felt tense, right? I couldn't, whether it's wife, children, work, relationships, everything just felt tense. Family just felt tense. So that was almost like the output of what was happening at that time.
Yeah. And that's a tough place to operate from, right? Especially when you know that you have been and want to be better, and you don't want that. Like, you want your interactions and stuff to be present and happy and, and relaxed. So that's where we were. Let's fast forward 10, 11 weeks, whatever it is, to today. I want to dig into, how you got to this state. But firstly, just like what have been your key achievements and successes having come through the process? Then we can dig into a little bit, how you got there.
Yeah, so I think a key achievement is everything just feels lighter, right? And it sounds a bit of a weird phrase to say and not really very descriptive, but everything just feels just generally lighter. So I wake up with a bit more spring in my step. And that I think has come about the fact that I'm just looking after myself more. So in terms of an achievement, I'm putting time into myself during the course of a 24-hour day that allows me to operate and behave better. I think the second thing is I generally feel relationships in my life are in a really good space, right? And that is a really big achievement for me. I feel like even when the inevitable happens, which is a point of difference or a challenge or an issue that comes up, I feel like my mentality and the balance I now feel I've got means I can conduct and relationships and conversation I can have in a good spot. I think that the final thing I think is that I feel like I'm smiling a lot more. And it's interesting. I took the photos before and after for a while ago, and there was it might have just been the camera angle and because it's a sunny day, but there was an actual sparkle in my eye, which I was just like I could feel like the happiness coming out. Was just in that photo. It was a photo of like relaxing with my wife Lynette at a weekend we had away, and it was just towards the end of the program where I just felt like I was just in a super good spot, which is exactly where I feel like I am now. So there was a real. So that I think that's probably the three main achievements.
I think, by all accounts, amazing achievements. And one of the things you said there around the relationship piece, I think it's a really important to highlight is, life isn't all hunky dory. It's not all unicorns and rainbows. You do have challenging conversations. Tough things happen, but it's you being able to deal with that in the most calm, coherent, non-reactive, objective way, and putting yourself into a state to be able to do that. That leads to a much more enriched, happier, present life, right? There's always going to be challenge and adversity in life. It's just putting yourself in, I believe, what we're talking here, in a state in which to be able to deal with it in a calm and rational way, where it's not being reactive. And like you said, 10 weeks ago, short fuse, more snappy, more reactive. And I think ultimately that feels more fulfilling, and it means you can enjoy what's there, which is ultimately all that matters, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
So let's dig into that a little bit then. So that's you today, which is happy, smiling, better relationships, fundamentally in control of your mental health and well-being. You've got those factors in play. And so I guess the outputs are those happier, more positive relationships. How have you achieved that? What have been the things that have enabled you to get to the point and state that you are in today?
I have a routine. The first thing that's come out of working with you, Luke, is I have a routine that I didn't have before. Now, I think when everyone has done some sort of fad, diet, plan, structured thing, give this a go for a while, all that stuff. But I think what was really important for me was to have a routine, which I did a bunch of stuff on a daily basis that is easy to do, non-negotiables. And it means once you've done those things, you just feel better. I've got a routine, and a couple of examples of that. They happen during the course. Things that happen during the course of the day. But sorry, dog's barking.
It's fine.
But I tag things in pairs. I do some of these things in routine habits in pairs. So, good example is every morning, without fail, I'll get up and do some form of exercise, and then I'll have a cold shower. Something that you challenged me to do, Luke. But I never would imagine I'm going to be someone who has a cold shower every morning. I do it. Sometimes I do not want to do it. I don't fancy it at all, but I still get up and do it. There's absolutely no.
That's the point. That's the beauty. For me, that's the best bit.
And even when I
don't want to, and do it.
Yeah, literally, if I've only got 30 seconds to have a cold shower, I'll still have a cold shower for 30 seconds, right? So there's absolutely no. So I do that. So the routine is important. The second thing is around what I'm eating. Now, this for me wasn't about going on a diet, and I've done various things in the past. Some have been really successful, some haven't. But just having a little bit of structure and guidance about eating stuff. So the simple thing for me is eating things where there's a lot of color on the plate, right? If there's a lot of color on the plate, in general, you're going to be eating healthily. So doing that on a regular basis is really important. The last thing for me, which has been brilliant, is just being prepared to engage in conversation at times of day where it's really important. So what I mean by that is in the evenings where it's just so easy maybe to watch TV only, or to scroll your phone only, or just carry on working at your desk for another hour or so. Stop doing those things and make sure you engage in conversation with the people that are around you in your life, wherever that is. And that can be sometimes all away from work, or obviously at home. But by doing that, there's just something much more rich about your day. You've actually found time to stop the thing and stop just mindlessly distracting yourself and living something in your life and having a chat, right? And something's going to be something really benign and nothing important about everything, or something can be like super important that you feel like you need to talk about. It has to be a thing, but it doesn't matter what it is you actually talk about. By engaging with people in a real face-to-face basis, that's been very, very big fulfilling thing. So I guess they are the three things that I think by having those things in my life, I just think I just feel better as a person because of it.
Yeah, and something you said there, the last point, which I guess you could sort of, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but it's being boundaried around your headspace and time, and putting boundaries around technology and stuff, so you can be present and be available. I think there's a phrase I heard the other day. It was like the tyranny of the urgent. Everything has to happen all the time. And if we're in that sort of state all the time, well, then you never actually stop to enjoy what's really important, which is right now. And that isn't me being some sort of cliched new age sort of wanker grass. It's like, it really is all we have. And I think if you feel like you're on that endless gerbil wheel, firefighting all the time, everything has to happen all the time, you never genuinely stop to enjoy the moments that are important. And that could just be having a conversation with your wife at the end of the day where you're not fucking around on your phone. But that's much more enriching, I believe, than the other version, which is that everything's all over the place all the time, And I think from what you're saying there is one of the meta principles here is having some routine and structure and discipline to your day. And I think for some people that can sound scary or boring. So I'm not in the army, but like when it's just chaotic, all you're doing is firefighting. It's just another thing to have to worry about. If you've got routine and stuff that's taking care of itself, then you can focus on the nourishing, exciting stuff that matters, right?
Yeah, so and again, I think it's good for everyone who's listening or sees this playing back to get on the routine stuff. This is not like here's a really massive written plan. You've got to do a bunch of stuff. It's like super simple. Like when you go downstairs and eat something, just make sure there's a bit of colour on your plate. It isn't a difficult challenge. Make sure rather than turning the thing to hot, you turn it to cold every morning for a cold shower. So I think these things can sound scary when you sort of think about having a plan in life or getting through a routine, but for me, and to get to it's almost like checkpoints. They're like checkpoints on your health, checkpoints on your mentality, checkpoints on what you're eating, checkpoints on your own time, right? If you check your screen time on your phone, it's saying 6 hours versus 2 hours, then you've just spent 4 extra hours of your life, right, basically on your phone. Sometimes it might be very, very valid because you've got work calls or whatever, or you're on Google Maps to try and find a location, whatever it is doing. But sometimes it won't be valid because you just spent too long on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. So the point is you and I think the biggest thing I got from it is like you are totally and utterly in control of this, right? This is not someone else's fault or some other person that can do this. Only you can do this. You can make these decisions. It's very, very easy. And I've certainly found it in my job, my role. It's very easy to say, I'm very busy at work, very stressed, lots of things are happening in my life, and I'm always traveling, all this stuff that's there, right? But I've also got time to still fit in my steps in a day, or walk up and down the aisle of a plane when I'm on a plane and I can't do my steps. I can actually walk up the aisle and still get a bit of movement. I can still make choices around what I eat. I can still, make sure I get some sleep properly. All those sort of things. It's in my control. It's in my destiny. So I think that's the thing. It's for me, it's been very empowering to recognize, and it's not a difficult thing to recognize, but you actually do control your actions on a daily basis, so you can actually do these things. And things will get in the way every single day, and you'll have all those excuses every single time. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's too wet, can't do this, can't do that. It happens every day, but you can still do it every day.
Yeah, and that's for for me, that's the powerful thing. And there's always something that you can do. Like, and it's also, I don't believe, having some completely regimented, super strict routine. There's only this one way, because that's as fragile as having nothing. Because if, as you just said, something happens, which it always does, well, then what you have to do, and like you saying there, it's like, well, it's about building and having a level of resilience where, yes, there might be, you can't do X, but what can you do instead? Like you said, okay, cold shower, can I do 30 seconds? That's it. Okay, I want to get some steps in. I'm on a plane. Oh, I can't do anything. Well, I can walk up and down a bit. It's not the 10,000, yeah, but it's better than fuck all. So, and I think if you're constantly ticking those little positive boxes for yourself, because some guys I work with, like, oh, I've got quite low self-esteem, I feel underconfident. So, well, how do you raise that? Commit to doing something and show yourself you can do it. Oh, that thing, I can't do that. Well, what did I do instead? Did that? Well done, me. Versus I just didn't do it. And if you fill your day with little wins like that, be that professionally, personally, whatever else, I think that engenders feeling good about life and yourself, and versus I've got a way to operate, it's gone wrong, life's coming at me, it's life's fault, work too busy. And 9 times out of 10, that's not true. Or you can make it not true if you want to.
You say it quite like this survival thrive thing, but yesterday went for a run in the morning, had a cold shower, got out and went to work, and walking around like just seeing some people looking a little bit more tired, a little bit more grumpy, and you have this sort of slight mini little smug feeling of like I'm already up and running, right? I'm already doing something. I'm a bit more, and it does come into your confidence. And then you start making some decisions that may be slightly different because of it. And don't get me wrong, even since finishing the program, there are days where it doesn't always quite operate at the level I'd want to, and you reset a little bit. Had a holiday, so obviously you don't always tick all the boxes the way you want to tick them. But you recognise, because you know what that feeling's like from doing those things, that is actually quite easy. Like today, I made a step back into a couple of things because almost by having this call, I recognised that I was just a couple of little things I hadn't quite let slip in the last 2 or 3 days. Just get back on them, and all of a sudden feel a bit better. So I think one of the things I've really enjoyed about it is this feeling of control of your destiny, like control of your of your actions. Of course, we've already mentioned that, but the fact you can, if you had a bit of a rubbish day yesterday, well, if you start doing those things tomorrow or today, all of a sudden things do feel a little bit better again, right? And you do have a bad day, you do have a tough moment, and it does happen. So I think that's been good. And again, all the things I've done in the past, without training for this, training for that, running on that plan, doing that thing, doing that program with work, whatever all these things are, I've had to have almost have it always there. And then once it's done, it's done. It's like a cliff. You fall off the cliff and then you're left exposed. It doesn't feel like that with this. I just go back to what I learned from the program, and I continue it on. So yeah, it's been very positive.
Yeah, and I think finally that what you said there, James, that's really important, because again, people I speak to, they may have tried stuff that you've tried, and maybe specifically focused on 1 or 2 areas. Like, so somebody's going, I need to sort my mindset out, I need to sort my body out, I need to sort my health out, my nutrition, my exercise, and acutely focus on one area of those things for a goal, for a marathon, for whatever it is, and then you solely focus on that, probably at the detriment to some other things. You achieve that thing, and then it's like, well, boom, fall off a cliff, back to square one again, because you've achieved a goal and you've done a lot of stuff specifically to achieve that goal, but it hasn't encompassed everything else that's going on. Whereas I think what you're talking about there is that you've got a framework that fits your life, and you can apply it given whatever set of circumstances. And that's this whole thing around, not every day is perfect, and some days you're not great. Your discipline is poor. That's it. But that then doesn't mean the rest of your life's fucked. That just means tomorrow you can wake up and go again. And I think, what would you say? Because some people talk about, I want to change my mindset, right? And people want mindset. Like, what would you say the program has influence with your mindset, and what would you take by that? If someone says, "Oh, it's helped me change my mindset," what would you mean if you're going to say that?
So I think it's a couple of things. So I think
quite a leading question there as well.
It's fine. So so one of the great benefits of the program is you get to interact with lots of other people that are in a similar situation. Well, not always the similar situation, but have got various similar traits. So you get a chance to have weekly calls with the group of people. I think when a lot of the things you just talked about, like when you're going to do this plan, I'm going to run that marathon, I'm going to do this thing. You go and you do it by yourself, right? You do this thing, and it's a plan. What I found incredible is that if you're sharing and you're listening and you're learning, like the whole time, and your mindset changes so much more, and particularly when you're talking about things that are getting you down, or from a mental health perspective, and when you're sharing concepts and considerations or thoughts or worries that people have got, you're hearing them, that your mind just opens up so much more, because you're recognizing that not only, and everyone's always aware that it's happening somewhere to someone else, of course, but hearing it on a regular basis, sharing ideas with people, so having each other's backs is an incredible experience. And it's like, being in this evolving team for your own self development is quite a unique thing. It's not something that you'd normally do. It's normally you're doing this thing for yourself, you're doing it by yourself, and off you go. You're doing this with other people, which obviously you facilitate, Luke, but it's what you get from the other people in the program that allows you to recognize that it's not just you, right? You're all different walks of life. You're all experiencing similar sort of things and traits, and that recognize, this is, get over yourself. You can control this, right? Yeah, we're all doing it. So that guy's doing it. That person's doing it. That person's doing it. Well, there's no reason why I can't do it, so off you go. And that's the thing I think is different. You are not just reliant on yourself. You're seeking and taking advice, and you're observing what other people are doing. And I think in this sort of day and age of us being much more expressive about mental health, and something I've always struggled with it throughout my life, and seeing other people struggling as well, but also openly talking about solutionizing and actually sharing, helping each other is an incredibly enriching experience. So that's probably the biggest thing I got from the program.
Awesome. And I'm obviously biased because A, it's my program, but B, I've also done very similar things for my own personal development as well. And I think sometimes with the group aspect, some guys can be a bit like, oh, I'm not sure what's this group, and guys who run big teams, but then I think when you get involved in it, it's not just, oh, we're all here with violins out and sort of, a pity party, or waving our knobs around, oh, great, look at me. It's the shared collaborative insights that you get from not just one person, other people. So sometimes on the call, I might be coaching one individual, and then I might come talk to you, James. And actually, because you heard 5 other people talk about other things, you might get much more insight from those parts of those conversations, because you can relate that back to you and understand that, versus the interaction that you would get from me, which of course, again, biased, usually hope to be quite good as a good coach. But I think that part is incredibly powerful, because it exponentially powers up how you can then move forward yourself. And ultimately, we're talking about behavior change here. And if you're seeing others help them change their behavior, struggling, but then taking ownership and looking at the solutions and making something work, I said, well, I can do that as well. But you can also learn from those other interactions.
Yeah. Just to add on that, when you all get on that first call and you see everyone, you're looking at people like week 1, week 3, week 5, week 7, week 8. And like you're looking across, I'm never like that person's coming on the call, they're bouncing, they're energetic, they're talking about all these like loads, and what the hell is going on there? Like they're just completely like on a completely different planet. And when you get there, you feel like yourself, you're literally jumping through the camera at everyone else, and they must go, what is this person on, right? But it's basically, you've been doing this for 8 weeks, like you're on the 1% drug, right? And that's basically what's happened. So I think that it's again, it's something that definitely people start on those calls and you can tell they're a little bit self-conscious and worried about what they say, but engaging in that as much as you can is definitely a route to success.
Awesome. Well, look, James, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you're a very, very busy man. Thank you for your time. I think anyone watching this will hopefully have had some great insights, and it's been really helpful, and I really appreciate you sharing your experience and your journey. Before we get off, let's say someone's watching this, they may be feeling like you were feeling 10, 11 weeks back. They've toyed with the idea of coaching, maybe not done it before, they're kind of on the fence. What would you say to someone who's a bit reticent about a process, but kind of knows they want to do something? What would you say to someone like that?
I'll just say go for it, because you're only going to get one chance this life, right? So just go for it. You've got an ability to shape how you feel, and if you're feeling rubbish and you're feeling at the bottom, or you're struggling now, by the time you've gone through this program, you're not going to feel like that. It's a significant change process. You've got to go into it with every ounce of energy you've got, though, because you're going to get so much more out of it. And you'll know within a day or two of starting the program that you're going to get something out of it. But you turn up, you get on it, you do everything you're asked to do, the challenges you put in, and everyone around you will benefit from it. It's not even just you that will benefit from it. So yeah, go into it with everything you got, and you'll get loads out of it.
Well, thank you for that, James. Very kind words and a great endorsement. And just let you know, as an aside, not as an aside, really important. I think you absolutely smashed it. You did do that. You lived it and breathed it. You engaged, had difficult conversations when you need to. Because, like I say, this isn't about doing a few shiny life hacks or slice hunky dory, because that's not how life works. It's like, you're in it after 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, I feel great, and then bang, you get slapped around the face. Good, because that's how we're then going to adapt. You had the conversations around that, and the net result is where you are today. So well done, mate. And it's been a pleasure working with you. So thank you. For anyone watching, if you're interested in having a chat, you like what James has said, you're interested to find out a bit more, drop me a note in the comments or a DM, and we can arrange a conversation. On that note, James, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and everyone else, have a great week. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Luke. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers.